The new year, the spring, the wine, and the beloved are joyful. Babur, make merry, for the world will not be there for you a second time. Just picture the sun rising over the vast, wind-swept deserts of Central Asia, painting the whole sky in these deep, rich ambers and reds. A lone warrior on horseback feels the cold wind and reflects on just how fleeting life really is. Those are the actual, deeply personal words of Babur, a man who would eventually forge one of the most magnificent, sprawling empires the world has ever seen.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tracing the incredibly dramatic, almost cinematic arc of the Mughal Empire. It's a massive story, really. We'll follow it from its gritty origins on foggy battlefields right through to a breathtaking golden age of wealth and perfect architectural symmetry, all the way to its slow, tragic fragmentation. So let's jump right in.
Part 1. Origins of an Empire.
Our journey actually starts in the incredibly harsh terrain of 15th century Central Asia, with an 11-year-old boy who was basically just thrust onto a throne. In 1494, young Babur became the ruler of Fergana, which is in present-day Uzbekistan, and he didn't get there through some grand coronation either. It happened because of a completely bizarre architectural accident. His father was tending to his pigeons in this poorly built dovecote, and the whole thing just collapsed and toppled into a ravine. So literally overnight, an 11-year-old is handed a kingdom and surrounded by hostile uncles who are desperate to steal his throne.
But here's the thing, Babur wasn't just any kid. Talk about pressure, right? He was a direct descendant of the great conqueror Timur on his father's side and Genghis Khan on his mother's. So the stakes were unimaginably high. After actually losing his ancestral homeland of Fergana and enduring years of just brutal, turbulent struggle, he trekked over the Hindu Kush mountains and captured Kabul in 1504. And it was right there that he turned his sights eastward, toward the legendary riches of India.
Part 2. The First Battle of Panipat.
All right, let's fast forward a bit to 1526, zooming in on the dusty, foggy plains of North India. A clash is brewing that will literally change the course of history. And the wildest part is the sheer mismatch here. Ibrahim Lodi, the Sultan of Delhi, brings a massive traditional army, up to 40,000 men and a terrifying, literal wall of 1,000 war elephants. Standing against this absolute Goliath is Babur, with only 15,000 men. But Babur brings a secret weapon those elephants have never faced, 20 to 24 pieces of cutting-edge field artillery and revolutionary gunpowder firearms.
So, heavily outnumbered, Babur executes what's called the Tulugma strategy. Picture the air choking with dust, the thunderous, slow-motion roar of cannons firing. Babur's Ottoman gunners unleash their artillery straight down the middle, while his cavalry pulls off this brilliant, sweeping flanking maneuver, completely wrapping around the enemy. The noise, the smoke, it completely panics Lodi's elephants, and they end up shattering their own forces. In one incredibly violent stroke, the Mughal era in India begins.
Part 3. Consolidation and cultural fusion.
Now, obviously, an empire cannot survive on gunpowder alone. So we transition away from the heavy smoke of the battlefield to the soft, glowing light of the royal courts, where the new empire really starts to stabilize and flourish. You get these rich fabrics, incredibly intricate details, and just pure regal splendor. This is the golden age under emperors like Akbar and Jahangir. They weren't just expanding borders, they were cultivating this royal atmosphere of immense wealth, ruling from golden thrones, and becoming massive patrons of the arts.
And what truly made the Mughals remarkable was this cultural fusion. They didn't just come in and conquer, they blended. If you've ever enjoyed modern South Asian culture, you are absolutely feeling the echoes of this era. Their Persianate ethos from Central Asia deeply intertwined with local Indian traditions. We're talking about the birth of Mughlai cuisine, that perfect blend of Central Asian and Indian flavors. We see the rise of Hindustani classical music with absolute legends like Tansen. Exquisite Persian miniature painting spreads everywhere. And perhaps most importantly, we get the development of the Hindustani language itself. It was a total cultural renaissance.
Part 4. Architecture and symmetry.
Let's slow the pace down for a second to marvel at what the Mughals are arguably most famous for, that gleaming white marble and red sandstone that define their majestic skyline. During the reign of Shah Jahan, their architectural philosophy reached its absolute peak. He had this obsessive focus on harmony. His whole era is defined by the extensive use of bilateral symmetry, meaning you could literally fold these massive buildings perfectly in half and they would match flawlessly. The intricate floral imagery and pristine materials weren't just for showing off either. The actual goal, as contemporary posts described it, was to create a literal paradise on earth. And honestly, nothing embodies this idea of paradise quite like the Taj Mahal. Imagine the golden sunrise hitting those high-vaulted domes, scattering birds across the morning sky. This is a monument built over 11 years as a declaration of pure love and dedication to Shah Jahan's favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal. To this day, it remains one of the most universally admired masterpieces of world heritage.
But, the Taj was far from their only triumph. The entire empire was dotted with these monumental landmarks. You've got the massive red sandstone walls of the Agra Fort, the Red Fort in the walled city of Shah Jahanabad. There's the stunning Lahore Fort, and the perfectly balanced, terraced beauty of the Shalimar Gardens. These epic walled complexes permanently transformed the region's entire cultural geography.
Part 5. Peak Wealth and Overextension.
Things take a bit of a darker turn here, though. We're entering the era of Emperor Aurangzeb, and it's a time defined by endless war tamps, exhausted soldiers, and an empire stretched to its absolute breaking point. Picture the map sweeping all the way from Kabul in the mountainous northwest, completely across the Indian subcontinent, right down to the Kaveri River in the deep south. This is Hindustan in the year 1700. Under Aurangzeb, the Mughal Empire controlled almost the entire subcontinent, encompassing an unbelievable 158 million people. That was roughly a quarter of the entire global population at the time.
And that immense size translated directly to hard economic power. Under Aurangzeb, the Mughal Empire wasn't just big, it was the world's largest economy and top manufacturing power. They commanded over 25% of the global GDP. But here's the catch. Maintaining that immense scale through non-stop military campaigns began totally draining the royal treasury and exhausting the military.
Part 6. Fall and Fragmentation.
And so we start to see this tragic, slow-motion decline. Those slow-burning torches in the tired war camps eventually give way to a rapidly fracturing map. The contrast here is incredibly stark. In the 17th century, centralized, unified imperial rule held the whole subcontinent together. But as we move into the 18th century, that central authority just crumbles. The empire faced really stiff competition from the rising Hindu Maratha Empire. Soon after, foreign invasions from Persia, combined with the rapidly growing influence of the British East India Company, began chipping away at Mughal territories. The once unified map basically shattered into regional pieces.
The final fade to black happens in 1857. After existing for decades essentially in name only, the old, silhouetted emperor, Bahadur Shah II, looks out at a totally faded empire. Following the Indian Rebellion of 1857, he is formally deposed. And that marks the absolute end of the Mughal dynasty and the formal establishment of the British Raj. The great Timurid legacy was officially dissolved.
Which really leaves us with one big question to think about. We've traced this incredible arc from an 11-year-old boy in Central Asia, through the deafening roar of cannons at Panipat, all the way to the silent, enduring symmetry of the Taj Mahal. So I have to ask you, when an empire built on both the violent force of gunpowder and the delicate beauty of white marble finally fades from the map, what truly remains? Keep that in mind the next time you look around at the art, the language, and the architecture of the subcontinent today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.